All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the OverDrive channel for the second part of the kickoff of Split 1. And it's been a couple of hours. We've all had time to get some sustenance, and for some of us, maybe to get some other stuff on the side. But all before that, we had the chance to witness the very first game of the season, Navi versus Cook. We were expecting Sparks to fly, and Sparks have definitely flown, Legion, it's safe to say.
I know, I was surprised at the outcome of it. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of expecting Navi to run away with it just a little bit. You have Mime and New Prime as, again, we're talking drivers that are easily top 10 in the world, going up against Scrappy and Lingo. But I could not have predicted what had gone down. If you haven't seen it, it was a nail-biter of a finish. It's first to 3, so 5 maps, and it did go Cook's way. So Scrappy and Lingo recording that first win, and frankly, I'd say it was more of a come-from-behind type of thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a very solid comeback. Just to give you a bit of a rundown of how the match went. First up was USA, which was Navi pick. They won that one handily in 4 rounds. That was a 4-round deal, 10-1. They started off with an ace, then it was a draw, and then back-to-back aces to close it all out with New Prime and Mime kind of sharing the bulk of the load, even though Mime got 2 individual wins there. Then on Brazil, which was a Lingo pick for Team Cook, it was very much a Cook map where they had the upper hand. It was a little bit slow to start. They did throw 1 ace in the bin in round number 1, but then they got their act together and made amends in rounds 2, 3, and 4 with victories, ace and ace. They did concede an ace after that to Navi, but then came back with another ace in the 6th round, so it was a 12-5 scoreline for Cook, which evened the playing field. Then we went on to China, where it was basically a repeat of USA. It was just a 4-round deal in favor of Navi. One draw, and then 3 back-to-back aces, where we've seen some times that were much akin to slower paced rounds, with 106s being very much prevalent. Then we went on Greece. This is really the start of the cinema in terms of that particular game, where it's been kind of like a freestyle progression, as I like to say it, in reference to another former TMGL map, where we saw progression being very, very slow, and it was very sluggish at that point. It was draw, draw, draw. Then eventually we saw Navi get an ace and get the upper hand and potentially be within a stone's throw of actually making it a 3-1 score for them. But then it all started to crumble, and Cook came back way, way quick with 1 counter ace, then a draw, and then a victory to send it all on France, where we saw Lingo be an absolutely stout performer there, Legion.
Yeah, Lingo really locked in for France. You could tell that he was starting to finally get a little bit of fire in him. You had talked about at the first broadcast, of course, that Lingo is sort of a glass cannon when it comes to competitions. He is either absolutely, running the show, or he is in the back. And there were a lot of rounds running up to France on the other maps where we really did not see, I guess, the ideal Lingo that we're used to. He's, crashing here, missing a jump there, having to respawn over there. So having him come alive when it mattered was massive, especially because Scrappy was also, I think, kind of starting to struggle a little bit towards the end. I think a little bit of that competitive fatigue started to come in. So it was really a good trading of the torch, if you will, for Lingo to come through for Cook and actually assist in closing out that final map on France. But we are, of course, going to be moving on. We have another match. We will see Mime and New Prime again, but G-Geek, who are they going up against this time around?
They will be, before going to presenting their opponents, I just wanted to put a little bit of a period on Lingo's performance, because over the course of the match, in 2 out of the 5 maps, he drove new personal best, and he drove 2 times that were actually enough to send him in the top 10, most notable of which was the time on France on round 3. He drove a .055, 107.055, that was good enough for 9th in the world in the public leaderboard, which is a stout performance. Going back to Navi, who are now going to have to put that disaster from the first match behind them. They are going to face AG Global, Gwen and Binks, reunited under the same banner this year. They have played under the same banner a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, as a matter of fact, during Trackmania Grand League under the Gamers First umbrella. And these two, no matter be they individual or all together, they can be a very potent combination, and definitely opponents to be very wary of.
Gwen is, I would probably say, the player to watch out of the two of them. His accolades are numerous. I would say more than Binks, of course, not to discount him. But with Gwen's performance in Trackmania competitively, it's not somebody you can count out. It's not somebody you say, oh, okay, well, he's up against this guy, and this guy, good luck. He's had plenty of surprising moments, plenty of upsets. We talked about it before, that he was out of the competitive a little bit for a while. So, he's a little bit rusty, but he's really shaken a lot of that off and has shown that despite his absence, if you will, from the competitive series, he is still very much a threat on the surface of it all. So we'll see if we're having the Gwen that we all used to know and love back, or if we have to wait just a little bit longer for that.
Yeah, I guess it's just something that we're going to have to wait and see. And if I remember if I remember correctly, when I saw these two playing 2v2 back in 2023, this was very much an area, game mode where Binks was able to be the fallback driver, the one where he could be able to clutch up victories and in the moments of need for G1 to be able to keep themselves relevant in the game. So I'm kind of looking forward to see that synergy potentially return with these two reunited. And we said Gwen, looking forward to these performances. The man himself is back after a couple years out of the game. And just to give you a little bit of an insight, which you might have already have seen in the top left of the screen during the game, Gwen still has one world record on the public map on USA, a .413, just a few milliseconds away ahead of Carl Jr., who tried to beat that record during the DreamHack. Didn't happen. And in terms of the other times, well, Gwen is top 5 on China, top 4 on France. He's definitely the front man in terms of the overall pace, but do not sleep on Binks at all, because not only can he be a very dependable player in 2v2, he can also be very, very fast when everything really goes his way.
Yeah, and you have, I would say, maybe the winning combination of himself and his fellow countryman Gwen. Gwen has been locked in quite a lot. He's, like you said, he has that world record on USA, and of course I assume we'll be playing that map. So it's a question of where does that come into play? How early do they play it? Do you play it first and try and take one up on your opponents, or do you maybe save it for a last map pick if it comes down to it? You have almost a guaranteed win. So having Binks there as that backup, as the second guy in command, let's say, that makes the task of actually winning these rounds so much more difficult for Mime and New Prime. Whereas with Scrappy and Lingo, they could, I really wouldn't say that either one of them were sort of that backup driver, that, fallback guy. So there was a little room for relaxation. But with Binks and Gwen, I mean, good luck. I don't know what else to say, really.
Yeah. There's not really much to say. I guess the thing you can say is that about Scrappy and Lingo, I guess, to just kind of do a bit of a diversion, they were a bit more evenly matched, maybe. Well, they're evenly matched in terms of responsibilities. They can be more flex players, maybe, to quote terms from other esports, where they can be a bit more adaptable in terms of, okay, I need to be dependable now, or I have to fall back on my other teammate. It's important to also find the right nuance and also be able to rely on each other in each other's need, and that's where synergy. That's the key word here. The synergy between the two teammates is extremely important. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it will click after instantly. Sometimes it will take a lot of work to get that up to par so that you can really take on the best. But at the end of the day, it's really a matter of people and how they work together, really.
Yeah, it's Duo Cup. You got two people. You're either first and second, or you're first and third, ideally. Yeah, we saw a lot of draws in that first game of the day, so we'll see if those can be avoided for both teams. Of course, they'll want to get through as quickly as they can and, tack on a win. Of course, both teams are looking for their first win. Mime and New Prime were not able to do it against the Scrappy Lingo duo, and of course, this is the first game for Gwen and Binks to be playing in. If I am not mistaken, we are just waiting for, I believe, one more person to walk in. Oh, no, we got everybody.
Both are on the server. We're just waiting for the pick and pick to start. I was going to say pick and bat, but no, it's pick and pick. Yeah. Remember, there are only 5 maps, and it's best of 5. So.
Yep. So it wouldn't really make sense to ban a map unless you want to do go back to a rotation like we've seen with other competitions. So I think we could probably do a little prediction here, G-Geek, and I'm going to extend it to chat because, the expert analysis they are. Looking at this matchup, looking at the talent we have here, who do you think's going to win? What do you think the scoreline's going to be?
I'm thinking it's going to be another 5-game series, and I want to put my little money on both Gwen and Binks. I want to put my money on AG Global. I feel like they really got what it takes to enter the league in a good way. No offense to Navi, but I really hope they can be proven more, and they can really put that setback fresh out of sight and out of mind, as we are now starting the pick phase.
I was going to agree with that. I think that AG might be the pick here. I don't feel like we're going to go to a map 5. I feel like it might be in 4. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The first pick is going to be Greece, though, so that'll be interesting to see how Navi sort of bounces back from that. Navi responds with USA, and then it's China. We are waiting on that AG pick. It's either going to be Brazil or France, and it is going to be Brazil and France. So France, another map 5. Do you think this might be the trend for the competition right now, is to pick France, or not pick, but leave France for that map 5? Or do you think this is just coincidence?
Honestly, it's a bit too early to judge. One could, I feel like, people say once is a fluke, once is a pattern. I don't think that saying will be holding up true just then. We have to wait until a couple more games are played to actually get a very good order in terms of what the philosophy of picks and bans potentially in some of the open qualifiers is going to look like. So as a quick reminder, it's Greece, USA, China, Brazil, France, your map order for the second game of the day, in the second game of OverDrive Split 1 in the top division. And we're going to start off on Greece. This was a Binks pick, and he picked it for a good reason. If you weren't following the Elite Cup, this is the map where Binks broke his duck and got his first win of the season and brought AG Global their first outright win in Trackmania. He is performing for a reason. He knows he can be consistent on this map. He can be quick when needed, but also can rely on his teammate, who's got a pretty solid time. He's got a 113.169 in terms of PB, Gwen, and Binks currently on a 288. He might be languishing a little bit, but I think his pace could be good enough to thwart the attacks of New Prime and Mime, especially considering that New Prime is in the 0.3s in terms of personal best on this map.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna sort of deal with the Binks Gwen duo. I don't think that New Prime and Mime are too worried right now. I think that last game against Cook is out of their mind. So, they're doing what they should do, which is simply to just lock in and play the next match. Although, one thing I want to sort of bounce off of what you said about a certain time being set by a certain French player here on Greece is I'm wondering if AG wants to come out of the gate swinging and just immediately hit Navi with something like, I don't know, maybe a 10-1 or a 10-2 scoreline, something like that, to really set the tone to say, hey, you are stuck hidden here with us. It's time to play, and that is exactly what it's going to be as the green lights go out and all 4 of these drivers are let loose for the first round here of this matchup. AG in blue, Navi in red. We're here on Greece, and after the first couple of checkpoints, G-Geek, it's been pretty clean.
He's been pretty clean so far, although Mime loses a little bit of time in that double right-hander towards checkpoint number 4, and thus will be at the tail end of the field by about a 10th and a half. A bit of a slow exit from the ice slide courtesy of Gwen will drop him down the order. It will be Binks versus New Prime ahead, side by side, on the way to drop downs towards checkpoint number 7. It will be Binks, the man from AG Global, currently holding the lead by a 10th and a half to 2 tenths, and a clip from checkpoint 8 for Mime, which will be relegating him down to last place. Gwen has a bit of room to breathe now in third and has his sights set on catching the gap back up towards New Prime, who's quite far ahead. 2 tenths at this stage of the round can be a lot, but as we've seen plenty of times already on Greece, all can come undone at the identity, which we're reaching right now. Binks leading, New Prime second, Gwen in third. That's the order that they enter the identity. Will it be the same order at the exit? New Prime clipping very heavily on the way towards the third platform. Gwen is promoted up to second place, and Binks will swing a 0.393. We're right at the ballpark of the usual round pace here on this map, and you wanted to see if they wanted to swing right out of the gates with a very potent scoreline. Well, they're already one step in the game.
I feel like Gwen would have had the overtake on New Prime even without that clip. There was just something about sort of the entry and the first couple of jumps that looked very, very nice for Gwen. So I don't think it would have been an unexpected ace, to say the least, in that first round. But as we continue on, we have seen Gwen now falling off the pace a little bit here, leaving Binks all by himself. But as G mentioned earlier, Binks is sort of that good backup guy that you can, rely on when you have a crash like that or a touch or something. You can count on him to really hold it down and try to maximize the points. And not only that, this has allowed Gwen to catch back up. Sure, there is no physical contact being made between these cars, but certainly that psychological roadblock coming into play here. Gwen knowing that the other players are not going to be able to get into first, which will allow him to catch back up and potentially turn this from a draw to hopefully a round win or maybe even an ace. As we go into the identity section, everybody's separated by about half a second. Gwen starting to get a move on one. It will be New Prime clipping the platform there. Mime goes across, but Gwen saving it from being a one-all point as Big sets a new personal best of a 1:13.263. Not quite close to a world record, but still a damn good race.
Still in good improvement by a few hundreds, which brings him on par almost with Mime. Actually brings him a little bit closer to Mime, maybe a couple of hundredths of a save here and there compared to his previous personal best for Binks, but that is gains that you take. Even if they happen somewhat slow, you take any kind of gain you can get when it comes to ultimate pace. As we go into round number 3, it is 4 rounds of a lead for all gamers, who lead 5-1 so far against Navi. End of the first sector, all regroup within 66 milliseconds. This may be the first very hotly contested round for all 4 players. As we go through the first drop down section, it will still be Binks in the lead, and it's still looking very contested at the moment. Binks going full inside on checkpoint number 8, still retains the lead. Gwen going side by side with New Prime and keeping tabs on Mime for the benefit of second place. Great NASCAR turn on the part of the Frenchman from AG Global to go side by side with the 2022 Vice World Champion right now. Mime having to concede second place temporarily. The man from Navi having to work overtime in order to actually get back within touching distance of the two Frenchmen. Still keeping tabs on Gwen's rear end at the moment. Going towards the identity. Binks, Gwen, Mime losing a little bit of speed. A little bit of good clip as well from New Prime. Mime is completely out of it. New Prime is out of it. It's a 1-2 for AG Global, and Binks continues to pile the suffering on top of Navi with a .185, bringing himself in line with the time of his teammates. And my word, all gamers have just decided to take not even just a regular baseball bat, but an aluminum baseball bat and go for the home run right there.
Being a 10th, just about 10th off of world record from Binks in 3 rounds of play. If you're Navi, this is the time where you wish you could ban a map. Anybody watching this who is inevitably going to face AG in the future, they know that this is going to be the map that they will need to really put in the effort in, really just go through the paces to try and improve, because Binks already coming out of the bullpen swinging, and it just continues on. He still leads a 10th and some change ahead of his teammate, and a quarter second is the gap from third to first. The NASCAR section, Binks just pulling away even more. It's like he's got more grip, more turn, and he doesn't even have to lift at all. And Gwen right there in tow, less than a 10th. Now it's 36 milliseconds. The Frenchman lead as we are heading towards the end of the map, potentially for the last time. As long as one of them stays in first and the other can get at worst third, we will have a map victory, but it's not looking like that's going to happen. Side by side, hand in hand, the two go through the line. It will be Gwen getting the better of his teammate, but it is going to be an 11-1 scoreline here on Greece. 4 rounds of play, almost a perfect game from AG if you disregard round 2. But first blood going to France, and if you're Navi, you've got to be a little worried now.
Yeah, indeed, and it is very much a Binks show, and he picked this map for a reason, and he just showed it to the world once again. And you said that he felt like he had more grip, more turn in it. He looked like he was downright running a winged outlaw car in some of those corners, the way that the car just continued to zip through the corners like nobody's business. As we're moving on to the first Navi pick, which is going to be USA, but you see the world record at the top left of the screen, 102.413, courtesy of Gwen. This could be definitely throwing a spanner in the works for Navi if they are not careful enough.
Yeah, I think it's probably worse when you get into a map and you see that the person who has the world record is also a guy who is in your lobby that's not you. That puts so much more pressure on you and in this case, your teammate to perform, because you have a guy who sits at the top of the pile. He knows the track better than anybody, and those lines are so refined. They're so clean, and you can, I wouldn't say you're seeing it here right now, but I think Gwen maybe is giving a little bit of a showcase of what's to come. So does that play into this map, G-Geek, or maybe does it perhaps set the expectations a little too high for AG? Do you think they might, play a little bit worse because they think, oh, we have someone with the world record, why do we have to worry?
I don't think they're going to be looking too much into that and looking too much into the potential indicators that the public has. All they have to do is focus on the race, just stick to the game plan, not completely eat the match plan alive, and just stick to their guns. And we're going to see if they're able to do so and able to take the fight to Navi on their first map pick, which is USA. It's ongoing right now. It will be Mime at the tail end of the field after the quarter pipe, but everybody makes it through clean. And at the end of the first sector, it will be a 10th.5 between first and last.
Great flying, though, from everybody, keeping it close. No big mistakes, maybe a couple releases and some questionable brake taps. I know that quarter pipe jumps are also a section that really takes a lot of experimentation to get right. It's almost deceptive on how hard they can be, because you think, oh, I just gotta, jump from here to there. Okay, cool. Well, depending on what the exit is like will dictate whether you should go high into the air and dive down like a hawk, or if you have to take it a little bit more shallow. And here we're seeing New Prime and Mime actually holding off Gwen. I don't know if Gwen's going to have a lunge here at the end. He will get one off of Mime, who did clip the platform, but it will be that round victory for Navi on the first round here in the USA. Already starting to maybe fight back a little bit. Navi knowing that if they lose this map, they're going to be in a lot of trouble very, very early.
Yeah, and they need to actually start building on that sort of round result, but I think we're already seeing a mistake from Mime. Yeah, just a little grazing of the wall into checkpoint number 2 before the bobsleigh, and it seems as though that momentum that they started to build after round 1 is going to be going in the bin. And look at the exit from the quarter pipe from both Gwen and Binks. It is absolutely beautiful. Binks will be looking to make amends from round number 1, because in case you haven't seen on camera, he went a bit wide at the exit of the dirt flick and hit the wall with the right rear of his car, which sent him completely out of the running, leaving Gwen to try and salvage a point, which he managed to do by going into second place. But we mess up the lineup for that said dirt flick for Gwen, but he gets a huge break in this round. He's going to take a big sigh after seeing New Prime's front wing make heavy contact with the apex of said dirt flick. Binks has a 6/10 lead over his teammate, who himself has a 4.3 second lead over the nearest Navi player. It will be thus an ace for all gamers, who will retake the lead of the map with a 4-2 scoreline, and Binks will be on a .66. We're 1/10 off of the devilish time, and we're into the worst kind of time that you can see on the screen, but that's another debate altogether. Still, the point stands. All gamers retaliate very heavily compared to Navi.
Now up by 2 here in the second map. They're going to try to keep that momentum going, and this is sort of the thing about Trackmania some people don't think about, is it is a pretty big momentum-based game, because once you start getting a few of those good rounds in, your confidence shoots way up, everybody else's confidence goes into the drink. So it's about converting that and not letting it go to your head. I know some people, myself included, sometimes you do get that bit of extra confidence and you start thinking that you're the greatest car driver of all time, and then you hit a wall and you look like an idiot. But this is a league of player that this certainly does not happen, as we do see Mime with the slightest touch of the wall. New Prime, that's a very low jump from him, minimizes the airtime that he has to deal with. Of course, in the air, you cannot accelerate, but it's all for naught as he makes contact with the wall on the apex of that little dirt flick. And Gwen also having a bit of a stumble there, but it doesn't matter. He's got a second, probably going to be a bit more over third place, and it is looking like another ace for AG to put themselves on map point. 7-2 is your scoreline.
7-2 the scoreline, although for Binks, I wonder, like, he was straight heading for the left post of the gate of the finish straight, and I was wondering if there might have been a little bit of PTSD flashback from the USA Elite Cup round where he full stompicked into the right gates, but did not set off the trigger, which resulted in him getting eliminated in P50, which doesn't net you a lot of points in the Elite Cup. But so far, it looks as though those qualms have been completely addressed, and those fears have been completely vanquished. What has been vanquished, though, it looks as though it is the very first uncharacteristic mistake for Gwen. With that huge slowdown before the bobsleigh in checkpoint number 2, he will be trailing the rest of the field by about a half a second. By the time we reach checkpoint 4, it will be Mime leading a very hot trio right now, comprised of himself, New Prime, and Binks in that order through the dirt of checkpoint number 5, and a very hefty wall brush on the part of Binks, which is going to be slowing All Gamers' progression throughout this map, and is going to be handing Navi a chance to try and repair some of the damage that has been dealt to them in the last 3 rounds. Both make it through the dirt flick just fine. Mime leading his teammate by a 1/10.5 of a second. Gwen a further half a second down. They can afford to try and coast this and bring it home, going all the way through that section, but we missed the slide on the part of New Prime. Gwen says, thank you very much, I'm taking second place away from you just like that. New Prime will get the win with a .853, but that ace gets thrown in the bin at the worst time for Navi, who desperately need to bridge the gap. They still are 4 points away from All Gamers, who now just need a victory to validate the second map.
But most importantly, they're still in it. Yes, you did lose out on the ace, but your opponents didn't get that ace. That's exactly what AG would have wanted. So for the time being, silver lining, you're still alive. You're still in it. And it's not over just yet. Still track point, though, for AG. Looks like Gwen has made amends for last round and is currently up at the front, although he is battling it now with New Prime, leaving Mime and Binks all by themselves. And I think Mime just had a mistake there, as he has fallen way off the pack. Yes, he has. So that does leave New Prime to try and play spoil to this French duo. If he can get first, it'll be a draw, which will give us one more round, but all it takes is one mistake, and that'll be it. And you see a slightly wonky line from him, so that gives Gwen some more breathing room here as we go into that downhill drift. Oh. Gwen is going to go too wide. I think he released there. There is a chance. There is still one more round potentially. New Prime just has to keep it together. He's got both French players bearing down on him, but it's not going to be enough because New Prime is going to slide out at the last possible second. That plastic platform claiming another victim, and it will be AG with the ace. 11-4 on USA. They're up 2 maps, one more, and this matchup is going to be over.
We've seen that happen time and time again. Someone getting a little bit over-ambitious. You'll be able to about to see right here. New Prime gets a bit of airtime and lands sideways on the plastic. If you would have landed straight, you would have been able to somewhat make minute corrections. But here, landing sideways with the back end stepping out, you just end up sliding out wide, as you said, and then hitting the scaffolding right on the edge of the track, thus trapping your left rear. And that's pretty much all she wrote for Navi. Losing their first map pick, they're heading on to the second one, which is China. And now it's very much an emergency meeting required between Mime and New Prime. They need to actually get their act together. And both Gwen and Binks, I wonder if they're going to both go for the box slide here on this setup. And they look like they do. Whereas New Prime and Mime, they did not bother with it. They only went for the safe way. So if Gwen and Binks are able to pull this off consistently, this might be curtains for Navi already in day 1.
I know you're coming off of a very tough 2-3 loss, a back and forth battle with Cook, but then to completely just throw it out the window and potentially go 0-3 in your second match. That's not how you want to start your OverDrive campaign. That's exactly the opposite. You want to try and keep it as close to the top as you can. But you're up against Binks, you're up against Gwen. This was really a matchup that I did not see going in Navi's favor.
Yeah, this is looking very grim at the moment, extremely grim for Navi. And even though they did win this map 10-1 against Cook, it was more on the part of Cook failing the bug slide. And I wonder if they're going to try to rely and prey on mistakes from AG Global, maybe messing up the bug slide alignment. We're going to see that right now. The bug slide is perfectly executed on both sides. No shoddy landing whatsoever. Maybe a little bit for Binks, who loses a bit of speed, but Gwen has already pressed B for boost and is trying to scamper away into the horizon. 3/10 ahead of the battle for second, which is opposing Mime to Binks. As we go down the bank dirt corner to checkpoint 4, the start of sector 2, and the long ice slide.
It is going to be a perfect start for Gwen, as he's already got 3/10 and some extra over second place. Mime has gotten the overtake, has gotten the best of Binks, potentially just for a moment though. Binks not one to back down that easily. I think he's starting to get a little bit of ground made up here on Mime, but it is still going to be Gwen leading it as we are getting into the end. The double turnaround coming up, wanting to make sure you don't go too deep here because you'll hit that snow and get a slowdown. Gwen, so much speed, and Mime as well able to keep ahead of Binks, and we go into that last one, and it will be a much better exit there from Mime. He goes as far back as you can go and gets so much more exit speed out of that, and he does get an overtake and does halt AG's attempt at a first round ace. 2-1 though, still a lot of work left to do.
And a 105.152 for Gwen, who this time will not be able to help his teammate. He has to tell Binks, hey, we need you to actually pick up the slack. But this time, just like in the previous round, gets a bit of a slowdown at the exit of the buck slide, and thus will allow Mine to move through into the lead. And now Binks is locked in battle with New Prime to try and salvage at least a point from the situation and avoid Navi from getting, and prevent Navi from getting an ace there, which would put them 2 points up on their second map pick. Mime still ahead by quite a fair bit. A 0.3 of a second lead compared to the battle for second. Between Binks and New Prime, Gwen is kind of out of it in last place, a second down compared to the leader. Binks goes way wide and way slow on the way towards checkpoint number 8. New Prime is able to validate that second place through second sector. Now onto sector number 3. Mime in the healthy lead once again. New Prime in second place has a healthy buffer to manage Binks and see him coming through the turnarounds. We almost go a little bit in the snow, it feels like, for Mime. Maybe perspective giving me a little bit of a trickster here as we go towards the second turnaround. It will be Mime and New Prime validating the ace, and Mime, the stopwatch says a 0.583. We're back down to somewhat sedate, quote-unquote, rounds after we saw the 0.152 from Gwen earlier on with a successful buck slide. So they are continuing to pray for mistakes to happen on the opposite side when it comes to buck slide execution. It has worked for them 50% of the time here on this matchup, and it will work 2/3 of the time after a huge crash from Gwen, forcing him to respawn, and Binks forced to take the safe way. Mime and New Prime looking to try and turn things around.
Well, this is going to keep Navi alive if they can keep it up. Getting a map off of AG here would be great for them. It denies a 3-0, but Binks could get a point for AG here if he's able to get around New Prime. Last round wasn't too kind to him. He did not have such an opportunity. This was actually the point setup here, if you will, the standing setup at the end of last round. Mime, New Prime, Binks, and Gwen. Binks, I saw on that that last turnaround on the ice, almost went as deep as possible and or almost touched the snow, but he was able to make it right to the edge, so he didn't lose any time there. But both Navi players taking it rather safe here through this ice turnaround. They don't really have to risk it that much. They know the gap right now is over a second, so they're really just taking it easy. Another ace coming out for Navi to make it 7-2 here. Map point starting to show its head for the first time for Navi.
Yeah, and they desperately need that map point, especially considering that after that we'll be going back to an AG pick. It will be Brazil up next, where Mime technically has a better online PV compared to Gwen, but you never know what happens in Trackmania. Anything can happen, and usually does, as I like to say it. This time, buck slide, it will be a 50% success rate, but a very bad exit from both Gwen and Binks, which is going to be giving Navi a fighting chance. All 4 cars regroup within 0.2 of a second. Going into the banked dirt of checkpoint 4, on the way to sector number 2 will be Binks leading, going into the ice slide and the slide outs. No, everybody makes it through clean. Maybe a bit of a slow ice slide on the part of New Prime, which is going to be leaving Mime to do battle with Gwen for second place, and also with Binks for the lead. Gwen trying to go for the throw, trying to assume the lead and trying to help his teammates. Mime continuing to pile the pressure on and continue to make himself a force to be reckoned with. He's not going down without a fight and takes the lead away from the AG Global Boys onto checkpoint number 8 in sector number 3. Now the drop down, going next to the flag mast maybe for Binks and Gwen, and a huge wall brush on the part of Mime in the final chicane before the ice turnaround, gifting a potential ace on a silver plate for AG Global. As we go for the final turnaround, it will be Binks and Gwen. In which order? It will be in that order. Binks leading Gwen at the finish line by 60 milliseconds, a 0.584 to a 0.6 flat, and all gamers slash the gap down from 5 to 2 points.
Is this what AG wants? Just sell Navi a dummy early. Show, oh no, we're not a threat. We're going to just give you the map and then just pull it out from under them. And right now the bug slide, once again, that success rate has gone up. And look at how well they get out of that one. A very clear advantage this time around compared to last round, where there really wasn't much between themselves and both the Navi players. into the ice slide we go. It is Gwen in the lead. Binks fighting back against Mime. If AG can get an ace here, they'll take the point advantage by 1. 8-7 would be the scoreline, but they would still have to win another round to try and close this one out early as Mime makes that touch on the transfer. The Dirt Master himself getting tripped up by the surface that he calls home. Binks leading it from Gwen 5/10 of a second as they go into the turnaround side by side again. It will be Binks leading the way into the next turnaround. That gap has grown. New Prime trying to fight back, but Binks and Gwen, another ace for them. It's 2 in a row for the French duo G-Geek. It's 8-7. It's not only track point for both players, it's match point for AG.
Match point for AG, and right now it's ace or bust for Navi. They need those 3 points, else they might be considered done for day one, and it looks as though that scenario might be happening with another great book slide on the part of the blue side. Both pulling away at a rate of 3/10 at the end of sector number 1 compared to the nearest Navi competitor, which in this case is Mime. Going through the ice line, maybe going a little bit high for Binks, looking to try and compensate for that. Mime going a bit more inside of the exit. Is he able to parlay that into a bit of a gap reduction? The answer is a no. Still 3/10 compared to the lead, 2/10 compared to the nearest AG global player in the form of Binks, currently sitting in second. Going on to sector number 3, checkpoint number 8 on the way up the dirt. Make sure to avoid hitting the wall on the outside. We're going fairly conservative on the side of Gwen and Binks, not going all the way towards that second white line. Mime forced to compensate by going almost over the barrier. Does make it stick, but it looks as though it will be too little too late. And for Navi, it is absolute calamity, losing those 2 matches in thus fashion. And for all gamers, a 3-0 score with Gwen locking in a 5.403, just a 10th and a half ahead of Binks. 11-7 the score on China. 3-0 the scoreline, and that is a strong statement of intent being given to the opposition by both Gwen and Binks. They're like, hey, we're in it to win it, and you're gonna have to put a lot of effort in order to beat us.
That didn't even look like the same split. I'm sorry. That was. I know we'll be having a joining of the splits later on in the season, but that wasn't even close. Like, at least with, I'm looking at the other match here. At least with the Navi Cook game, we went to map 5. It was back and forth. Yeah. Nobody really had a definitive advantage until the very end. Here, it's just AG coming out and beating Navi bloody, and then saying, "All right, we'll see you later. Thanks for playing." But my God, that is brutal.
Let me put it this way: we went to 5 games, sure, but most especially in the Navi Cook game, the 4th map was played in 8 rounds, whereas here on the AG Global Navi match, we never went past round 5 in any map we've played so far. And for the first map, we even concluded on the 4-round deal with ace, victory, and then back-to-back aces, with Binks continuing to continuously crank up the heat, posting a .185 on round number 3. Over on USA, it was really where Navi really fumbled really bad and really dropped the ball on their first map pick. They really should have been able to do something in spite of Gwen's world record appearance. They should have been able to pick the ball up in that sense, but with mistakes repeatedly at that dirt flick from New Prime, both times with the front wing clipping the apex, gifting those back-to-back aces, really doing a lot of damage, not only on their mental, not only on their confidence, but also on their potential gameplay. They started to turn the tide around on China with back-to-back aces on rounds 2 and 3, but Gwen already rattled them somewhat with a .152, which is about a 10th away from the current record from Granati. And then after that, the last 2 rounds, just absolute disaster. Well, they couldn't do anything after the buck slide was fully dialed in from AG Global. When rounds 2 and 3 went haywire in terms of the first few corners and the buck slide for Binks and Gwen, then Navi, who opted to go for the safe route, were able to put something together. But once round 4 and round 5 with the buck slide kicked in, it was pretty much done and dusted.
Yeah, that was GG. We only played 15 rounds, folks. We only played 15 rounds of Trackmania here compared to, what was it, like 20, 30 something? I don't even remember.
14 rounds on this game compared to, let me make the count, 4, 8, then 14, 22. We played 27 rounds in the opening game, and this game, we almost cut the round count by half.
Yeah, so we had 4 rounds in Greece, we had 5 rounds in USA, we had 6 rounds in China, compared to 4 rounds in USA, 6 rounds in Brazil, 4 rounds in China, 8 rounds in Greece, and 5 rounds in France. We did not race France, we did not race Brazil in this matchup, which is surprising, because I feel like with those seem to be, at least personally, those are maps that I really enjoy watching because it's always close, not because the pace is there, but because there's so many little mistakes that'll happen that just brings everybody back together. So for AG though, hey, they got their 3. You know what? They're happy. I can only imagine what's going through Mime and New Prime's head right now. Again, it's still day 1 of this competition. We have a good handful of months left, but they do not want to be on the back foot this early. Nobody does.
Nobody wants to be on the back foot this early, but the good thing is they're going to have a full week ahead of themselves to try and sort of calm down, regroup, and maybe adjust some of those things to preparing for the next set of matches for week 2, which they're going to have to schedule well themselves. There's been plenty of scheduling going on and plenty of talk between the teams in order to be able to make those matches happen, which yields to the situation that we are in currently with the schedule. Speaking of which, that gives us a good outlook and a pretty good segue to talk about what is going to be happening tomorrow. There will be 2 separate streams like we have had today, but there will be a first stream in the afternoon with 2 Division 1 games, and we're going to be following along with the Weibo Genji duo of Wosal and Heave. They will be having a game at 1 p.m., which will be against all gamers, so we'll get to see Gwen and Binks playing versus their fellow countrymen, Wosal and Heave. Wosal, who won the Elite Cup on USA, by the way, during the winter season. That is going to be at 1 p.m. CEST, and then after that, at 2 p.m. CEST, Wosal and Heave will take on Team USAC with Neil and Wizzy at the helm of that particular duo. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how one of the wheelmen does here in the 2v2. It is worth noting that Wizzy, of course, took part in the World Championship of 23 along with Stofs as part of Team Wild, and also participated in the Beacon Duo League as part of Wheelsy with Mutta. So there is some 2v2 experience there, of course, for Wizzy. And then after that, there is going to be a little bit of a pause, and then we'll pick the action back up with a different set of casters with Division 2, with a couple of matches. I think I can reveal the lineups already, with Evolup versus Onyx at 5 p.m. and that will be a bit of interest, I think, for you, Legion, because there are some NA boys playing. I guess I can reveal the lineups. Yami and Naruto for Evolup versus Hackney and Flimsy for Onyx. Will be very interesting to see how the NA contingent performs. Then at 6 p.m. it will be Shift versus Tempo Bros. So Shift, it will be Jadon and Josh versus Azion and Feed for Team Tempo Bros. And then at 7 p.m. CEST, which is basically Cup of the Day, it will be another NA team, Halcyon versus the Va Bene team, the Italians of Wayfridge and iPrime playing against Nixotica and Fegli, which is a bit of, if I were to do a bit of a callback, sorry to kind of like fill the air for a little bit, but these two were part of the very first Trackmania Challenger League season, which was played solo back in fall of 2021. I think Fegli was part of Team 300 at the time, whereas Nixotica was part of Team RBG Esports, which also included a certain randomize. That's funny.
Interesting. I mean, those two had very different paths, I must say, but I gotta say, out of all of those matchups, I am, of course, interested very much in the all-French lineup here of, what was it? It was Navi and, I'm forgetting. My head's a little fogged.
Genji Weibo versus All Gamer.
Thank you. So I don't know why I'm thinking Navi, but yes, that matchup's going to be great. I think we'll see another stellar performance from Binks and Gwen. And then, of course, the Onyx boys. I think out of all the North American organizations that we actually have here, Onyx pretty much is top dog. I know that I think sometimes like Carl Jr. will like float in and out of it and just kind of exist, but that team I have high hopes for. I do hope that they go very far into this competition. I think personally they would be NA's best chance, because we don't really have a lot of those over here. So that's another matchup that I will absolutely be keeping an eye on as best I can tomorrow while I'm at work, but I'll try to check in when I can.
Yeah, and also I guess you're right in saying maybe Onyx has a solid shot, because Cockney, especially if you haven't followed some of the competitions that have happened earlier this year, namely the Beacon World League, you have missed something, guys. He has been on an absolute tear. I think he went for like all of his matches and got 12 match records out of the 20 that were possible to get. Like, that is a stellar performance against the likes of Epos. Unfortunately, didn't manage to parlay that into a win in the playoffs, but that's another topic altogether. He's nothing to take away from this guy. This is a stout player that everybody outside of NA should really watch out for, because he can do a lot of damage, in the words of a certain salesman. But also, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how Fegli and Nixondica get along. Maybe not the best chance compared to what Onyx has. And also looking forward to see how Neil gels with Wizzy as part of the Team USAC duo. So just as a reminder, we're going to be kicking off the action tomorrow at 1 p.m. CST on this channel, with the two Weibo Gaming and Genji games happening at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. And then after that, a little bit of pause. And then from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., it will be all focused on Division 2. And with that, I think it's time for us to close out this opening stream of the OverDrive League. And first of all, I want to give the floor to Legion, because I've been filling the air for minutes at a time, and I kind of apologize for some people like that, but I wanted to talk about, I like talking about racing, I like talking about Trackmania. That's how it goes, right? But Legion, what are your takeaways for this opening 2 days of this opening 2 matches that we had, and what are you looking forward to the most during the season?
I don't think... I know, I can do my job. Anyways, but AG is going to be a problem through and through. I think they really are going to be giving a lot of these teams a run for their money. This will be probably the longest tournament I will have partaken in any capacity, in terms of, obviously I'm not competing, I'm not that good, but production wise, I am very interested to see how all of this plays out over the course of the next few months. I think we are going to have, I can't say what teams will be upsets, but I would say maybe we'll have like 5 upset matches. I don't know what those will be or when those will happen. That's really it. Oh, and also shout out Mikey, I love you, you're great. So yeah, that's my whole takeaway from this, though. I'm absolutely ready for everything that OverDrive has in the future, because my god, if this is day 1 and we've only seen three teams play, and we've got at least more than 3, probably 16, I think it is. And then we have all of the other, we've got the open qualifiers, we've got continental, like we've got so much competition here. We've got so much competition we've yet to even have. Could any of these teams even be fighting at the top? I don't know.
Well, only one way to find out is to stay tuned into OverDrive throughout the entirety of Split 1, but also the entirety of the year, because as you said, there's so much stuff to look forward to, not only for the beginning of this year, but also for Split 2, and also the Major, and all the Continentals, and the Open Qualifier. Blah, blah, blah. But I'll say this, 2v2, it's always nice to see it back. And there's a word for 1v1 and 2v2 to coexist, and I'm glad that we're living in the timeline where these two formats coexist like this. And with that, on those words, I think it's time for us to truly wrap up. Thank you very much for being with us on this opening week and opening day of OverDrive Split 1. And also, one last time, personally, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. It's a pleasure, of course, to be in the caster booth along with Mr. Legion 2K on the left-hand side of your screen to bring you Trackmania action and content live. And also, a big shout-out to Laura in production, who's been pushing all the buttons, showing you the replays of some key moments here of these particular matches. And yeah, here's to a very, very nice ride through the OverDrive segment. That's going to be it from us. Thank you very much for watching. Much love, be kind, stay safe, and see you all tomorrow for the rest of the action. Godspeed, people.
Bye.
Yeah. See the potential, instant, influential, maybe controversial, maybe in another life it's mental, maybe in this one sentimental, no, not accidental, whoa, what you come back to